It's April 9th, 2026, and welcome to episode 126 of the Driving Forward podcast. Whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Wreaths Across America Radio, I don't know why I didn't connect that together, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time. Actually, I may have that wrong. I think they might have moved times on us, but overall, we appreciate your support. Coming up, we'll be at the following events. If we can pop that up. We didn't make it to Decision 44 this week. We had a complication in scheduling, but April 20th through 22nd, we're at the National Tank Truck Carriers. I believe myself and Mike Solars will be there. Following that, we'll be at Broker Carrier Summit in Kansas City. That'll be Robert Bain. And then mid-year, ATA mid-year, we have Missy Hetland and Susan Mayo. Big Rigs for Little Kids Golf Tournament. That's in Tennessee. I think Susan Mayo is attending that. And then myself and Mike Solars are going to be at Samsara Beyond in June. Next week, I'll actually be at the Minnesota Trucking Association Management Conference, or Management Summit, excuse me. That'll be next Tuesday in the Minneapolis area. So if anyone's around for that, love to meet you. Actually, before we start into that, next week we have Jason Nesbitt on. Jason's the president and founder of Trucking Pros. I've known Jason for probably close to 20 years. Since we both were just kind of up and coming in the business. But he now runs a company based out of Hudson, Wisconsin called Trucking Pros. And he's added on a number of trucks, but he's a wealth of knowledge and just a great level-headed gentleman with a lot of integrity. So looking forward to having Jason on next week. And that's an interesting picture of him. I'll have to figure out where he's wearing the hat. But so going on from there, this week I wanted to start out a little differently. Instead of doing a video later on, we're just going to pop a video here first of our guest today. So let's go ahead and run that if we can.
Tell me about the Christmas tree and how excited you are about this.
It was so exciting because it was like I get to come from home and represent where I come from out of Boone, North Carolina.
You've been driving for how many years?
46 this past Friday.
46 years.
Yes, sir.
What are some tips that you would recommend for any driver, whether it's a truck driver or for passenger cars in and around commercial vehicles? What would be your tip to them?
Don't be distracted. Distracted driving can go in a lot of ways. You can put a phone in your hand. You can reach for a drink. You can turn around and try to discipline the kids in the back seat. The thing is if we stop and think what's going to happen in that split second and we realize in our heads the disaster it can create.
We recognize the importance of the American truck driver, and we want to be able to make sure that this business can continue to thrive, but also do it in a safe manner. So talk to me a little bit about what we can continue to do at FMCSA and at USDOT to be able to make our roadways safer.
I think education. I think outreach. I think educating cars how they really should be operating around trucks. And I feel like that we might need to outreach further and harder and push this to where everybody gets the education that this truck can't stop on a dime.
That's right.
That you as a car driver speeding down the road at 80 mile an hour, you can't stop just as well.
That's
like
right.
you think you
That's
can.
right.
It really encompasses everybody.
I can say under the leadership of Secretary Duffy and myself at FMCSA, we want to work with the industry to make things better. We want to make things safer. Thank you so much for this. This is an honor for me.
Thank you.
So I love that video. Today's guest is not just in trucking, she is trucking. Ingrid Brown is a 46-year veteran of transportation logistics, and she's a powerhouse behind the wheel, a leader in operations, and one of the most respected voices this industry has ever produced. Amongst many other awards, she's the 2026 Women in Trucking Driver of the Year. And with more than 4 million safe miles under her belt, she's earned every bit of that title the hard way. Ingrid has done it all: owner, operator, professional driver, fleet leader, safety advocate, and a national voice for the people who keep freight moving. She's hauled tough freight, led by example, and worked alongside the FMCSA on safety efforts, and spent decades proving what grit, excellence, and staying power really looks like in this business. She does not just represent trucking, she represents the best of it. Tough, sharp, seasoned, and still rolling. Welcome to the show, Ingrid Brown.
I don't even know how to follow that. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm like tickled to death. I want to sit here and cover this up, but y'all just going to deal with it. Wow. Thank you for having me. We've talked about this before, and it's like, what an honor. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on. And yeah, we have talked about it before. And then after we bumped into each other at Matt's, I said, we're just going to make this happen. And you were able to accommodate us in your busy schedule. So I really appreciate that. I remember seeing that video that we just played, a couple of videos. There were several videos. I think you posted a few of your own. And then the DOT had some, and there was a variety of videos of you delivering the tree. And typically in the past, that's a great honor to have, but with this particular administration and the DOT, it's even more so, I believe. So, and I've had the ability or the chance to meet Derek Bars. I didn't get to squeeze into Secretary Duffy while he was at Matt's, but somewhere down the road, I'm going to make a point of meeting him. So, but I absolutely love the video, and we'll probably circle around back on that one, on how it came about here in a little bit. I'd like to start at the beginning with you, before you had any awards or titles, or really kind of knew who you were maybe in this industry in any way, shape, or form. So when you think back to the very beginning, what first pulled you towards a truck?
My uncle, my dad had a large road construction company, so I learned to run equipment and, of course, drive trucks. So, moving paving crews and moving equipment and that kind of thing is what kind of got me into that as well. And then doing things down like in Florida, that kind of thing. And it was a people. It was, yes, everybody loves and everybody hears about. It's the open road. It's seeing the sights. It's seeing, like being able to be a tourist and getting paid. For me, it was the people. It's the culture. It's finding the different cultures. It's finding the different ways that I'm a hillbilly from the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. That's why I got this accent, of course. It just it doesn't go away. Right outside of Boone, North Carolina, right on Tennessee, North Carolina line. And, it was so intriguing, and it was just a people. But at the same time, I can't say it wasn't the fact that I'm just one that I'm going to conquer anything that I set my mind to. And when it came to big, heavy equipment and, being able to figure out how to run stuff, then I figured out that I could take that 80,000 pounds and go west, or I could load equipment because I've owned flatbeds and stuff. The challenge, that adrenaline on that side. But the biggest thing was the people and places, because we have so many different places in the country, but I found that all those places don't live like little bitty Boone, North Carolina did.
Right.
So that's how I got into it. And when I go for something, you kind of met me. It's like, I have no stop to me. Everything is full force, 100%, or I don't do it. It just doesn't work that way.
So that's interesting. We had similar starts. I finished up, or I was never actually finished up, but I was close to finishing up college. And I decided the path I was going down was not the path for me. And I always grew up around equipment. And so I decided to go get my Class A and drive over the road. So you got a couple years behind the wheel more than I do. But and it was to see the world. It was not supposed to be a career change for me. I was not supposed to be here for nearly 30 years, but it was supposed to be go see the world, go see the U.S. and see it behind the driver's seat and figure out where I wanted to be, which ultimately ended up being the career change for me at that time. So I can appreciate that background. When you came into the industry, there was probably 3 or 4% women involved, something like that. So what did the world kind of feel like when you first entered the industry?
There was actually less than 1%.
Fair enough. Okay.
There were actually just 6 of us that used to run coast to coast, 6 females, and
Wow.
we would literally leave notes or birthday presents and stuff at the truck stops for each other, or notes, or we would leave notes written on the like in Van Horn, New Mexico, and Van Horn, Texas is a rest area, and it has the covered picnic tables, and all
We might have lost me, or we lost Ingrid there.
oh, you should have me back. I don't know why. I have great internet here. But you would take and you would brush, we would leave each other notes, but that's how we stayed together in friendship and stuff, hellos and across the median, as you say. But the thing is, in 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, you got to figure, I grew up in a man's world already from the day I was born. So I didn't see it as any different. I saw it the same way I was raised, as in I knew what my limitations could be, and when I hit limitations and I had to ask for help. Wasn't anything I didn't see the guys do. The guys used to ask each other for help.
Sure.
I didn't think any different when I asked for help. The full thing was, though, I tried every single thing in every way in the world, and I never asked them to do anything that they didn't try themselves first. So my growing up in this industry, my mentors were these guys. My mentors were sitting on the back of flatbeds at the Ottawa, Alabama rest area and being mad as fire because I couldn't figure out how to log something on my logbook. And this gentleman that was, 60 some years old at the time, sitting right there on the back of flatbed going over logbooks with me. These were the people that formed my career. The guys were my mentors. They are the ones that I have to say thank you today. I have to thank those 6 women. There were a lot of women that also ran team with their with their husbands. And, those relationships were a joint, as a couple relationship. So, there was a lot more respect because we didn't look at each other as a different gender. And I coined this many, many, many years ago, and I heard a lot of people say it and use it, and I hope more will. And that's that steering wheel doesn't know the gender that holds it. It has no clue. A shipper does not know what the gender is when that truck bumps a dock. Nobody knows what the gender is until they see that person get out of the truck. So to me, there wasn't a gender divide. We just realized how to ask for help, how to go about, and I didn't stop with the way it is kind of today of you go through a mentor or whatever for a few months or 2 or 3 years or whatever. I still have mentors today, and I'm going on 47 years. I have mentors today that still are here from back then. I have new mentors. I have some that are the new ones the last 2 or 3 years. So, that's where the difference is you never had to be fearful to ask these guys for help. You didn't have to feel like that you were segregated out. The only way you segregated out was you segregated yourself out.
Sure.
They didn't do it, type thing. Did I run across guys that would be like, flirtatious or whatever? They were more funny than they were flirtatious because they were jokesters. Um, God bless and thankful that I've not had to encounter any of the bad situations that we hear of today. Um, they just didn't happen because it was more so of guys want to get home. They ain't got time to be like messing around with they got a job to do just like we do.
Right.
So, they're my superheroes.
Well, no, I appreciate that perspective. The industry is certainly a lot different from when you first came into it, from when I started in the mid '90s. So you look at the difference now compared to then, and there's still really great people. To your point of why are you in the industry, the people, the travel, etc. That hasn't necessarily changed. It is a different people, but there's still a group of amazing people in this industry, and it's the largest small industry out there. So to your point of the first 6 women, how did you find those 6 women that you ended up interacting with? Because this is way before cell phones. You had the CB, which
Yeah, but we had those, but it was people you knew. I mean, I'm sure there were more from all over the country, but that was the ones of us over on the Carolina side. And we were pretty tight knit. You think about the Mayberry Mafia, that's what we used to call all of Mount Airy. And we all pretty well hauled somewhat and worked with different freight. I mean, heck, even though I was an independent or I was an owner operator, you would still see somebody else pulling somebody else's trailer for that week,
Sure.
because we all would share freight. Hey, I need this load. Can you run over and grab it? Or did you grab a load for that? But word of mouth, family members, meeting at docks. The best place was meeting each other in California on a produce shed. And at that time, we had places like Grimway. You'd go out and you were out in the middle of the field with an open cement dock at that time. And now you look at their facility now and it's unreal. And you started meeting people that was like, you're from like Hickory? Yeah, I live in Boone. You're from Greensboro? Yeah, I live in Boone. You're from, Richmond? I live in Boone. So you made those relationships, and still you got to figure we were still sitting around the table when we would stop. We sat down and there was not any of this, you went and sat off by yourself. It was kind of fun with the trucker tales back then.
Sure.
A lot of them big old stories, but at the same time, you didn't have to say a word. You could go sit down and have a peaceful moment too. So
Sure.
that's how we found each other.
What did those early years teach you about yourself that nothing else could have taught you, that nothing else in life could have taught you?
That there's nothing I can't do. There's lots of things that I haven't done. There's lots of things I wasn't able to finish or I couldn't accomplish or I had failures of, because in this long of a time, there's failures. There's lots of failures. And sometimes I think people, and as much as I love everybody and how much they love me back, absolutely, I've fallen on my face and I've had people there that have picked me up, brushed me off, and set me on my feet and reiterated, there's nothing you can't do. And that's the biggest thing. It's like I say with the FMCSA and the IRA, that's the safety program for FMCSA. And that's where I was on the billboards and all the PSAs online and on TV and all of this in 19 up. You could take my face off of all that. I want people to I don't want them to see Ingrid. I want them to see 3.7 million drivers. Any face in those numbers or above those numbers can be my face on any of that stuff, because none of this is about me. Every bit of this is about every single driver that gets behind the wheel that has a CDL. And whether you like it or you love it or you're trying to figure it out, you have a place here. It doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what gender you have. Doesn't matter.
I appreciate that. You can almost stop right there, and we could cap it right off of that last statement, but we're not gonna. So, so we have we have some time to fill yet. But I love that clip. That's the hot take, I think, right there. I mean, it truly doesn't matter. It really, this industry requires a level of grit, and that grit can almost be synonymous or similar to accepting the failure, because you have to have tough days, right? The day when you wake up in the morning, by the time you or night, whatever your hours are requiring you to do, by the end of the day, it probably didn't go the way that you planned. So, or at least the majority of the time, something threw you off. You had to fight with some battle. Failures range, but absolutely, if you have a level of grit and are one of the 3.7 million drivers out there, you absolutely belong. So you've seen, or this life, why it's rewarding, it also takes a lot from you. So what did trucking cost you personally in the early years?
I have two amazing daughters, and I made sure that I ran my ass off whenever they were with my ex-husband so that I took my time with them. I never allowed my daughters to be on the truck with me. I never felt like that was the appropriate place for them. Even though, I brag about all my guys and everything else, it's not always drivers that are the problem or the issue. I talk with my hands. Y'all gotta get used to that.
All right. I do too in settings, but here actually my hands are moving lower than the camera. So
I know, but mine come up. Sorry, it's okay.
All right.
It's just Ingrid. But yeah, I mean, there were times I didn't get back to stuff that I needed to, or probably the hardest too was the fact that in 15. You're gonna make me cry. My daddy was my life. And in 2007 first, he fell and hit his head on a truck. And so I was actually in Dallas, Texas, headed to California. And my ex-husband was with me. And trying to get on a plane and get home quick enough because pretty much he wasn't supposed to make it for me to get home. I did. He still had to stay in care for a while till he passed. And then in 2022, I was sitting on the side of the road in Nashville, Tennessee at the 840 and 40 junction with a broke down truck waiting on a tow truck, and didn't come for 8 hours and got the call that my mom was in ICU, wasn't going to make it. And yeah, those are times that a lot of times people think, what would you do? There's not anything you can do.
Right.
I couldn't jump out of that truck on the side of 40 and flag somebody down and say, hey, take me, 6 hours to get home. There wasn't time. So I think it's taken more, not just of some of the events in my life away from me. It's taken loved ones away from me. There's been divorce in this. There's been loss of family in this. So there's a lot of the bad stuff. But the thing is I'm not a victim to any of that in trucking. Trucking doesn't hold me as a victim because that happened. That could have happened if I lived at home and this happened, across town in the blink of an eye. This happens to people every single day. Multiple people, not just Ingrid. So I've always been resilient to understand that I can't control things. I have absolutely no control of what God has in store, but I do have control of how I react and how I choose to move forward from that. So I chose exactly to take what my daddy taught me, what my mama taught me, what all those things I missed, and the love of my two daughters and my seven grandbabies, six grandbabies, and you know it's still tough. It still has its days. I go through some stuff now that we've talked about off camera, that it is what it is, but it's what you make it. If you want to be successful, you realize what reality is. And so many people come in the industry today that don't realize this reality. They're so excited to be in the industry. They want to see this new cultures and these new areas and all these people, that people don't stop them and say, hey, just be aware that this and this and this can happen. You need to prepare yourself for, if it does happen, then what will you do?
Great perspective. I like the way that you kind of brought that back, because the question that I asked originally was that this life can give a lot, or that trucking can be rewarding, and it can also kind of take away. I think any career can have that narrative to it, but it's also a lot about the positive and understanding the expectations. With anyone that travels a lot, whether you're a airplane warrior or a road warrior, it doesn't really matter. You're still away from home, and there's a fair chance that you're going to be somewhere that you don't want to be at a particular time. So so you've seen this business from all kinds of. I'll kind of pull us up. Actually, first let's you alluded to the melanoma, so let's touch on that a little bit, because not only have you been fighting that, but you're also kind of a voice in that community too. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll jump into a break after it.
Sounds good. I'll do this kind of quick. I mean, there's not anything quick about melanoma.
No.
As you see here and what I've gone through the last few days, I was afraid I wasn't going to make it with you. I just flew in last night from the Cancer Treatment Center. Mine's genetic, but it's not just genetic. My grandfather was, one of my grandfathers was a truck driver. He had melanoma on his face. It metastasized in 1999 to stomach cancer. Then I was diagnosed in 2003, 2017, and I ended up, I just got lunch. Thanks. I ate my kids' meal tenders. Anyway, so for anybody that wants to know. So then I was diagnosed at 17 with it again. Then 7 months later, my oldest brother was diagnosed stage 3 with it. We figured out that this was probably genetic. In 22 is when my mom had it, and it metastasized to her stomach cancer, and she passed away. 23, I ended up with some breaking bones. I thought I was just getting old. Come to find out that we've been addressing, I do infusions and I do trigger injections for a lesion in my bone marrow, my femur. If you see me and meet me, you would never know it, I hope. But I don't ever want anybody not to understand that melanoma isn't just skin cancer. Melanoma can be from the sun and can be treated very early. Drivers, or even like you said, it doesn't matter if you're flying in a plane, it doesn't matter if you're driving in a car, that sun exposure can as well create melanoma. Scott, this is probably, who knows, they just biopsied it yesterday. We just think it's probably not anything major. I don't care what it looks like, go get checked. And if you want to know what it looks like, go Google melanoma. It'll give you all the steps and all the colors and all the shapes and sizes, and there you go. But the biggest thing is it's the treatment. If you catch it soon, you're good to go. But melanoma is big in our industry. Melanoma is huge in our industry, and it's not just truck drivers. And it can happen from babies to coming at latent age. So yeah, it's if I can be a voice for somebody to say, gosh, that looks like it's a two-toned mole, or I saw that change or grow last week, or anything like that, get to your dermatologist. You call your dermatologist, tell them you think you have a melanoma or something changed. They'll take you right in. And the thing is if you go, I mean, saving one person, um, that's as loud as I can scream. If it can save more, do 1 a year checkup. Cost you nothing if you go to the right dermatologist or to the melanoma fairs in May. That's melanoma.
Well, I appreciate that, and for drivers, I mean, you just imagine the left arm hanging there, and you have a suntan that's a little different than most people.
Yes.
That's something to keep an eye out for.
The side of the face.
Yeah, that's where I was just going. Just everything on the left side, and something to certainly keep aware of. So we're going to take about a 1.5-minute break, and then we'll return with a more industry kind of related questions to some extent. But we'll be back soon.
If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the time-critical world of trucking and logistics, every minute counts. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT and technology services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep trucking and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them with our industry connections and proactive approach. We keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise.
And we are back.
I was gonna fix my hair, but it didn't quite work out. Just kidding.
Oh, okay. It's all
Bye,
all right. So let's shift up into industry and your advocacy for the industry, and so we'll take a look at. I mean, you came into the industry quite a bit earlier than I did, and it's not that often that I talk to somebody that was here through deregulation and participated in that. So so there's differences in the industry throughout your career. Are there any noticeable changes that you can think of, whether you can pinpoint the year or the experience or the feeling, just something going back through your career that says, it was like this in the 80s and then significant change in the 90s or whatnot? So.
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure that, I mean, we trip leased, trip leasing was perfectly fine, and bingo cards and having that, there was no such thing as a broker, actually. Everybody was agents.
Yep.
And those were agents that, they may have an office in a truck stop, or they may have, it in their house, or they may be traveling. Agents used to travel a lot to small carriers. So, of course, we went through the trip leasing. And then it became more and more of where, we just would work and find our own shippers. Once we started working with shippers, that was the easy part, because, I mean, shippers were looking for carriers, and that's who they dealt with. And the agent model was so different back then. The agent model literally was the person that worked for the carrier. And then the agent model flipped And it felt like it was the 90s, to be honest with you. And starting in the mid-90s of how the agent model flipped and it became broker more so. And they chose to go out and start working, and that's when they developed into the shipper and then coming back to carrier. A lot of that, though, also changed too, Nate, with the communication. You know, you'd be nothing that you'd be standing at Flying J looking for a load, and a broker, I say at the time, an agent would call with what they had, and then they just pin it on the board, and then you had the DAT boards go up. So that was kind of the start of everything. A lot of people complained about having to adapt from somebody coming to them to now having to go to somebody to now having the technology of, say, the DAT board in the truck stop, to running and racing the competitiveness at a payphone of payphones, down the so all those, and where I'm going with this, follow me here, is adapting. The ones that got left behind were the ones that chose not to adapt, to where the independence of being a carrier, from where you got to choose what agent you wanted to work or to work for you with a shipper, or you worked with the shipper and the agent was the guy that handled all of the back office stuff for you, changed to now you have a broker that's now got your freight that you were working with the shipper and they're bringing it to you. So all of these changes that went about really went towards the 90s. And then, as we know, the broker became, your big companies started on that. And it got a little harder, but it still was not anything impossible into the early mid 2000s of going out and getting your direct freight. I mean, I still have connections and everything with so many of my direct freight then. I could go load at a dock in, say, Fullerton, California, and the owner of PWP, who at the time they made the containers for all of the airlines, the food containers. And he walks out on the dock, and because me being my little gritty self was like, I got this for you. I ain't sitting on this load for a week. Like you told me it was going to be different because you went through a broker. And now you're telling me I have to sit on it a week. And I'm like, get it off my trailer. Get it off. Nope, ain't happening. And it's like, we can't take it off. I'm like, yeah, you will, type thing. To where he was standing there watching the whole thing going, would you consider buying trucks and you taking my 22 between manufacturing warehouses? And I really missed that opportunity back then, which would have been mid 90s. But that was the way that so much of freight was moved. They would find you at a shipper. They decided they liked you. You gave them good service, and the shipper could reach out to you. Then the broker started coming in the middle of that. And honestly, it felt like the brokers blocked us in so many ways. Then, of course, the agents, the broker agents came on board to work under a broker. I still find it hard to call the agents brokers, even though they call themselves brokers today. So you guys that are agents that call yourselves brokers, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings or step on your toes. But to me, the broker is the person that owns the brokerage, that's the liable person that pays that bond, and that authority is under, and everybody else is basically an agent in their office. So the change has been, then that moved into the late 2000s, and then we went through COVID, and then it's been like a shit show ever since. Yeah.
I'm there with you. I haven't run trucks in a while. I've been on the tech side for some time, but I work with hundreds of trucking companies. But just looking back, when I was running trucks there wasn't the same network of brokerages that there are now. I mean, it's a substantial amount of freight that moves on the spot market, or even just through a broker that you have a relationship with, and we would have to validate it internally if we wanted to consider a broker a customer. I mean, normally a broker back and this would be early 2000s to mid 2000s, you would have to get it approved to say XYZ broker is going to be treated like a customer.
Yes.
But it certainly has changed a lot. And, why do you think it changed that way?
So many owner operators are going to hate me right now.
You have the same answer that I have then, but go ahead.
I love you guys. I'm part of you guys. That's my heart, my soul. But the thing is we let it go.
Yeah.
We gave in. But you have to think there's 93% are 10 trucks or less.
Right.
Those 10 truck companies don't have or didn't have the communication skills to be able to stay in touch and together to reinforce each other. And when the old saying started with no two truck drivers can agree on anything, that used to not being true. And when it started shifting, that became true. And we literally gave up our, I don't want to say rights, but we kind of gave up our rights when it came to letting brokerages come in and take over what was actually ours. I'm protective. I'm really protective. I still want to step back and go, this was mine to start with. Don't come in and step on my toes, because you probably won't like me if you step on my toes too hard. But but again, this is the part I'm talking about, adapting. I, as one person, could not do anything more than what I have done. I had to adapt, because if you don't adapt in this industry, and I don't care what your position is, you're going to be left behind. You're not only going to be left behind when it comes to your freight, your customer, equipment, technology, or anything else, but you're going to be left behind for failure. Success is about adapting and coming up to date with it. I come from 79. You're talking to somebody that, God love me and technology. If I send you a text, you're going to be reading a riddle.
Sure.
But I've still had to adapt to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, this industry is very adaptable if you allow it to be. As I used to say 20 years ago, if we lose a large account, we're just going to shift, right? We're not going to worry about that. We're going to have our trucks ready to go to the next one, and you always got to be selling. Back then, we ran 5% spot market freight with nearly 1,000 trucks, and that's even when we had 150 trucks, we were still at 5%. When I had my fleet, when I started out with 8 trucks, I virtually ran no brokerage freight, and that was 2006. So
yes.
So the key to it is to always be selling, right? Yeah, I mean, you might not achieve that percentage, but even if you're running 50% your own freight, you have control. And to adapt, we talked about this in one of my panels at Matt's. There's a lot of small fleets that stood up and asked questions around technology, and some of them were blaming the world on the issues of the world on technology. And my response to them, or AI or whatever you want to call it, and my response to them was basically conform or get left behind. And if you're not going to adapt, whatever that might have been, and there's multiple periods of time in my career that I think about this. The most recent one, in my opinion, was ELDs. You had to learn how to manage. That was a nightmare, right? So, but a fleet I was running back in 2010, 2011, was forced to go on EOBRs. And imagine a refrigerated fleet running, 14, 15,000 miles per truck getting put on EOBRs when nobody was on EOBRs. I mean, it almost killed the company, but we had to re-engineer the way we did that, or the way that we did business, and figure out how to adapt, right? And this industry has a lot of grit, as we said earlier, and it has a lot of capability to flex. So there's a lot of people in it that'll do that. But to the point you said, the owner operators or the smaller companies kind of gave up. I think it's the path of least resistance. At first, we have all this freight for you, we're going to take care of you. And then you add in all this stuff that's happened to the industry over the last 10 years, and that's compressed rates. Really, rates have not gone up much, even though our costs have skyrocketed. And
Right.
you talk to a broker, and they have their woes too. It's no one is, brokerages have created a scenario now where the price compression and their margins are hard to maintain. So you can have this conversation and flip it to being on the brokerage side, and it's not all wonderful there as much as what people may hear about that in the industry. It's not always that case. So the only brokerages have is they don't have to invest in all the equipment that we'd have to.
Exactly. I was going to say that. And I'll tell you this. So in 2008, I parked my truck and I decided I wanted to go to broker school. So I went for 4 months. I did not want to be a broker. I wanted everything I could find and everything I could get as far as product wise, tools, everything. Even still with just we had 2 trucks. And it didn't matter. I'm like a sponge. I don't care what part of the industry it is. I want to know about it. I want to know everything I can. So, and I had offers of like Preferred and some big companies come to me and go, please broker for us. And I'm like, no, I'm getting back in my truck, but I'm using this knowledge that I learned from the broker side because I saw what was happening. I flip. And I saw that to save where I had my money was fixing to have to be a percentage going to a brokerage, how could I keep that part by knowing how that worked on the brokerage side? So that's, these are the ways that you make things happen. If you want to be part of the game, you got to get in and learn how to play.
Right.
If you aren't willing to do that, then a lot of times that's another part of being left behind.
No, I agree. I used to do similar things. Go learn how to sell. I sold cars for a hot minute. I was good at it. I didn't like it. This is before today's world of selling cars, but you got to do it. There's not a chair that I haven't been in for the most part in transportation logistics. And the more you understand the whole industry, the better operator you are when it comes down to it. Whether you're still going to book the freight from the broker, you now understand their mindset. And if you can be in that mindset, you can potentially be fair about the way you're going to do business, and also reduce that exposure of giving away the farm when you don't have to. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to go back into a couple other questions or lines. Did you ever feel like you were carrying more than your own future? The way that you showed up or might shape what's possible for women behind you?
Yes, I have. I have felt that the whole time. Honestly, once it actually resonated with me that I was such a minority of being a percentage of women in trucking, and I'm not saying the association, I'm saying women driving a truck. It was like everything that I have set my career on is 2 things. One, that women understand that there's a place for them. They have a place in the industry. They have a place to drive a truck. It doesn't matter if you're an empty nester, if you're a single mom and you need to run local, if you are, coming out of high school and you want to spend that 18 to 21-year-old, shuttling trailers for somebody at Walmart, or you want to, there is a place for women to understand they don't have to be fearful to come in the industry. If I can resonate that to one woman that steps out of her comfort zone and actually will believe me and will listen to the fact they have a place in the industry, that is one of my biggest things is making sure people understand. If you're 18 years old and you don't want to go to college, don't go to college. You can have an amazing career and you can start it at 18. Don't let people say 18 to 21-year-olds can't do anything, because they can go and they can work local. They can go shuttle trailers. They can go and they can perfect those skills that everybody wants them to have when they cross that state line. So yeah, I'm big on that. The other is safety. My huge thing from day one has been safety. I can't stress the fact that now being in part of FMCSA and the Our Safety campaign, stressing to the general motoring public, educating them about maneuvering around us. Let me tell you why you don't want to stop in front of me. Let me tell you why, but better yet, let me show you. For some reason, we all really learn more by seeing something happen than hearing something happen,
Right.
which is sad in so many incidents in safety. So being that voice of safety, I will preach till the cows come home that there's nobody out here that's the safest. There's nobody out here that it hasn't and can't happen to yet. And that pertains to both in a truck or in a car.
No, great answer. I think I could probably bullet point a couple of things there, but we'll run out of time if I run down the path. And I have two questions I want to ask before we wrap it up. So when you look back over everything that you've lived, what are you most proud of that has nothing to do with any of the awards or recognition?
This is going to be real selfish. I stayed true to myself. I stayed true to the fact of what I believed from day one. I stood my ground on it. Nothing has changed it. My whole thing is if you're honest, you're truthful, and you do what you say you're going to do and your word is worthy, you've won in life, because life will be there. You may have the rocks and the hard spots and stuff, but I've stayed true to myself. But that means if I'm stayed true to myself, then that means I've stayed true to every single person that I have tried to reach out or touched or been a part of.
Beautiful answer.
I've never been asked that before, and that's pretty cool, because I hate to tell you this. I talk literally what I feel at that moment. This is not anybody that's rehearsed or trained me. This is
our first discussion. Anytime I bring a new guest on, I try to ask questions you always have to ask a couple of the background questions that everything says, but I always try to figure out a question that I don't think you've been asked before. So
that was it.
Well, good, fair enough. So glad we got that one. So for the next generation coming up, especially, well, I'm going to include it to everyone. I'm very inclusive when it comes to this, and I'm certainly a supporter of women in trucking. I'm really a supporter of everyone that wants to be in trucking and wants to be safe and operate by our rules. So for the next generation, the younger folk, what do you hope they understand about strength, the longevity, and building a life in this business?
Of course, the first thing is adapt. We all know that. The second thing is circle yourself with people that you see have succeeded the right way. When I say the right way, I mean with morals and ethics, and not just with words, not just with whatever's happening in the moment and then they move to something else. Take people that are literally for their word. Make sure that you do your homework. There's so many ways now to go and do your homework of, Google stuff and all this stuff. But do your homework. Find out what you really want to do. There's so many areas. You can drive a truck, but the thing is, when you drive a truck, you have so many niches. You can haul hazmat, you can haul livestock, you can haul refrigerated stuff. But if you can haul refrigerated stuff, and I'll say this specifically, this is what I mean. Be specific. Make sure you know what that product is. Make sure you know what it looks like. Make sure you know what it looks like when it's like crappy stuff. Put yourself into finding and making yourself elite. Make yourself a PhD in whatever you do. You might not get the diploma, but you know in yourself. But the people you surround yourself with will either make you or break you. So, putting yourself out there, doing your homework, finding what fits for you. That's what matters.
Also a great answer, words of wisdom. So I'll add this. In today's world, it is very easy to listen to a lot of people, right? With social media. And my theory on why truckers are so great at social media is because we started with the CB, right? So we started with the CB, and we like to be able to communicate. So I think that's just evolving as time's going on. But be careful who you are listening to and ensure that they are correct, because there's a lot of voices that are very, very positive, and then there's some voices that maybe aren't positive or are wrong. And it goes all over the place. There's a lot of people out there. So, but absolutely seek out that mentor or group of mentors, and your mentors evolve, as you stated earlier. So even today, with all your experience, you're still being mentored. I'm still being mentored. It just depends on how my life has changed, on how those people impact you. So Ingrid, I really appreciate the last hour. It's been great getting to know you a little better, taking some time and chatting. Any final words?
It's people like you, Nate, that take the time to care to learn somebody, to find out who they are. Social media can be the biggest devil. The social media can be the biggest distraction. It's when you make the one-on-one connections and you make this communication, and it can be a short conversation, or it can be times like this. This is what makes the industry, but this is what makes life, is face-to-face. To me right now, we're face-to-face. We're just using something that I've adapted to. Yes. Make yourself accessible. Make yourself to where you communicate directly with somebody. Don't just send a text. Don't just send an email. Make yourself available, but make yourself true. Make yourself honest. Be kind.
Perfect. Ingrid, where can people find you?
Everywhere.
Yeah, almost true.
No, seriously. I'm on the social medias. So it's Ingrid Brown. So probably the only one with the red truck. Ingrid Brown on wherever.
Yeah, I think I'm connected with you in a variety of them, at least the ones that I watch. So, but I really appreciate you coming on, Ingrid. We'll have to have you on somewhere else down the road, and I look forward to seeing you wherever I see you next. So,
thanks.
Right.
It's so nice to meet you.
Yes, same
God
with
bless you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. If this conversation with Ingrid taught us anything, it's that Trucking isn't built by noise. It's built by people who show up, endure, sacrifice, and keep rolling when most would have quit. Ingrid represents something bigger than longevity. She represents grit with grace, toughness with purpose, and leadership that was earned 1 mile at a time. In a world that moves fast and forgets quickly, Ingrid's story reminds us that experience still matters, character still matters, and the people behind the wheel carry a lot more than freight. They carry responsibility, pride, and the weight of an industry that depends on them every single day. This wasn't just a conversation about trucking. This was a conversation about resilience, legacy, and what it means to leave the road better than you found it. And Ingrid has done exactly that. Ingrid, thank you for your time, your voice, and the example you set for this industry. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.